In the past week, the relationship between Iran and the United States has turned from cold to hot. What led up to these events? What has happened so far? And what will happen next? Iran has been funding several Shiite militias in order to destabilize its neighbors, to allow them to project their influence. In order to counter these groups, the United States has been sending troops and drones to monitor and interfere in the situation. Iran shot down a US drone in May of last year after it claimed it flew into its airspace. The US president tweeted that Iran made a very big mistake, however later he stated he would not authorize an airstrike on Iran. Tensions would slowly keep rising until December 27th when a US contractor was killed by an Iranian airstrike in Iraq. 2 days later, the US would retaliate with attacks on Hezbollah in Iraq. In response to this, an Iranian-backed militia stormed the US embassy in Iraq on New Year's Eve. Up until now, the situation between Iran and the US was definitely getting worse, but it was nothing that would completely upset the status quo. But on January 3rd, President Trump authorized an airstrike that killed the top general in Iran, Qasem Soleimani, kickstarting the worst tensions between the US and Iran in decades, and a whole lot of World War III memes. Iran threatened retaliation and would take action on January 7th to attack Iraqi military bases that house American soldiers. Up until the moment of writing this script, that is all that has happened. The question now is, where do the two nations go from here? Polling has clearly shown that the US population does not want a war with Iran. An invasion of Iran would be unlike a war the United States has faced since the invasion of North Vietnam. Iran is a mountainous country with clearly defined borders, and although there are clusters of minority groups, the country is not nearly as divided as Iraq or Syria, and nothing would unite these ethnic groups more than a war on their territory. Another question is, what would the benefit be of a war with Iran? As stated before, the US does not want a war with Iran and has seen the damage a perpetual war can do.
If the administration is able to produce hard evidence that he was going to attack Americans, would you then say this was justified?
Well, yeah, that's a hypothesis. We haven't seen that evidence. Frankly, I doubt that evidence is there. Judy, what is going on right now feels to me exactly what I saw in 2002 and 2003, and that was the lead up and the justification for the war in Iraq. I opposed that war vigorously, and it turned out to be one of the worst foreign policy blunders in the history of the United States.
Although Iran could put up a fight the US hasn't seen from an invasion in decades, ultimately, Iran will lose. The other players in the area don't stand to gain much from an invasion of Iran, as they would lose either. Israel would be the top target for the Iranians should they feel they will be invaded, as they will likely try to bring down their ultimate enemy with them. Iran's Islamic rival, Saudi Arabia, would also be in a position of jeopardy should the US choose to pursue military action. During times like these, level heads are sought out and often required in order to prevent further escalation. However, the president's decision to take such radical action as to attack the #1 general in retaliation for the killing of a US contractor does not paint a pretty picture for a hope of peace in this conflict. Only time will tell what will happen next.